Yo, so we just had the patch 2.4 special programming for Honkai Star Rail, so we learned a lot about the new characters, the new patch itself, and a future collaboration for Honkai Star Rail coming in roughly a year from now. But today's video will be a dedicated video for Yunli, going over her entire kit, multipliers and all, because I did some digging of my own, not just what we learned in the special programming, so let's stop wasting some time and get right into this thing. Yunli is a physical type character on the path of destruction. She is a DPS character based around counters and high taunt value, walking directly in the footsteps of Clara and Svarog, because apparently the creative department over at Hoyoverse couldn't be bothered to give Yunli an identity of her own, so they just took Clara and Svarog's kit and slapped it directly on Yunli, took off her shoes, and sent her on her way. Anyways, Yunli's basic attack deals 100% of her attack to a single enemy target, not much different than any normal basic attack. But she does have a skill, and her skill has two functions. It actually heals her, which is nice because she taunts enemies to hit her, and you don't want her to die, of course. And it also is a blast damage attack, which is typical for a destruction character, dealing powerful damage to one enemy and then a lesser amount to the enemies on either side of it. She heals for 30% based on her attack plus 200, and she deals 120% of her attack to the main enemy and 60% to the nearby enemies. Pretty straightforward, and I want to see how good her healing actually is in combat, because if it's good enough, she might have the potential to be a solid zero sustain worthy DPS, but we need to test her out and find out if her healing's good enough and also if her damage potential is good enough for that type of situation. Now, just like Clara, Yunli's talent is her bread and butter, which should come as no surprise because Yunli is quite literally the 2.4 version of Clara. Anyway, when Yunli is attacked by an enemy, she gains an extra 15 energy on top of the 10 energy just for getting hit, so 25 energy in total. She also launches a counterattack on that enemy, dealing 120% of her attack to the main target and 60% to the enemies on either side of it. Very similar to her skill, and also very similar to Clara and Svarog. I just won't let it go. She will also launch this counterattack on a random enemy if for some reason the original enemy is not able to be targeted. And now, a rare Yunli moment where she decides to do something different than Clara and Svarog, and that is with her ultimate. Her ultimate only costs an affordable 120 energy, and don't forget she has built-in energy gains from her talent, and likes to get hit because of her high taunt value. So this ultimate will be active, and it will be active regularly, and it also has multiple functions as well, giving her the parry ability, which simultaneously taunts all enemy units. And it lasts until the end of the next ally or next enemy's turn, which seems rather short in comparison to Clara and Svarog, who get 2 full turns, but maybe we need to let her cook or something, right? Because that's just the beginning. Her ultimate also increases her crit damage dealt by her next counter by 100%. Crazy. And when her counter from her talent is triggered, it launches a special counter called Intuit Call instead of her normal talent counter effects, and also removes the parry effect. This special counter, Intuit Call, deals 220% of Yunli's attack to the main enemy unit and 110% to the enemies near it. And an additional 6 hits of damage will fall on a random enemy, each hit dealing 72% of Yunli's attack to that enemy. Obviously, this is best used when there's only one enemy left on the field after the initial damage, because all 6 hits will automatically fall on the only enemy that's left. Let's just hope it's not bugged like Argenti's ultimate was bugged on release. Am I right? Yeah. However, if there is no counter triggered during her parry window, when it closes, she will launch a special counter called Intuit Slash on a random enemy target and the enemies near it. These values are the same as Intuit Call, 220% and 110% respectively. The main difference is that those last 6 hits don't go off with this version, and it's on a random enemy. So pray to your gods that you get hit during her parry window, or it's gonna be a bad time. Something to keep in mind, Intuit Call is her best version, Intuit Slash is her weaker version. Now let's talk about her technique, which is kind of sick, I guess. She gains the ward effect, which lasts for 20 seconds, which is probably how long you last in bed. During the ward state, when you enter battle by either attacking an enemy or being attacked, Yunli immediately launches a nah-eyed win and then announces Season 3 of Jujutsu Kaisen. She immediately launches Intuit Call on a random enemy unit and also buffs this attack by 80%, which, yes, without buffs, is her most damaging attack, which is kind of weird, but don't be fooled because, again, she isn't buffed by allies during this attack, so it's mostly just some nice damage to start battle or potentially eliminate a mob enemy right at the start of battle. Yunli, as usual, were also released with 3 important main traces. So for her A2, after every single use of Intuit Slash, the next time it will be changed, it goes into Intuit Call instead. And for those paying attention, Intuit Call is the stronger version with the 6 extra hits, Intuit Slash is the weaker version. Her other trace, the A4, gives her a buff to her parry state, where she resists crowd-controlled debuffs and also receives 20% less damage. Her last main trace that we're going to go over is her A6, which gives her a 30% damage buff after every time she uses her counter, lasting for 1 turn. As far as Yunli's sub-traces are concerned, she mostly gives herself attack percent, then some HP, and then a small amount of crit rate, 6.7% if I'm reading correctly, which is really small, dude. If this is supposed to be some Clara Svarog power creep, I don't see why they gave her practically the same sub-traces. Like, sure, that 6.7% crit rate goes a long way, I guess, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more than that, personally. I'm hoping they do a last-minute change and give her more crit instead of HP, but that's honestly pretty unlikely. So some of you might be wondering who is better, Yunli or Clara? Well, that's kind of complicated to answer, but I will be doing a dedicated video to answer this question once Yunli arrives in the game, and I can do some proper in-person testing in a dedicated video, because you might be able to run different teams with them rather than the same teams for both, and that will definitely factor into who is better. Overall team damage is far more important than solo damage, but I'll do a damage comparison between them when she fully releases, and so stay tuned for that. But on paper, Yunli seems like a Clara power creep for sure. However, I don't see her being so much better that you should feel the need to replace Clara, so Yunli might be a bit of a skip for some of you guys. Especially since if you're like me and you've been playing the game for a while, you might have an E2 Clara already, which might even be able to perform better than Yunli due to the buffs that her E2 gets, so just keep that in mind. I do want to say something about Yunli though real quick. Her playstyle will still be a ton of fun, just like Clara's. However, she's not necessarily a super OP Omega powerhouse like we've been seeing lately with, like, you know what I'm saying, the Acherons, the Fireflies, the Aventurines, the Sparkles, the every freaking character for like the last 4 patches straight has been an absolutely like must-pull unit. I don't literally believe in must-pull units, but it's been as must-pull as it could be for a long time now. So some players are going to be bittersweet about this. Happy to finally take a breather and maybe skip a character, and bitter because some people just want meta unit after meta unit after meta unit. But don't forget that Zenless Zone Zero just released, so this is probably planned so that it wasn't an Omega hype time for Star Rail, so the players didn't feel pressured by trying out the new game they just released, Zenless Zone Zero. Anyways, if you like Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero, all that kind of jazz, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.